No tengo, dicen que penas no tengo, porque mis ojos no lloran, porque mis ojos no lloran. Pues que sepan los que ignoran, pues que sepan los que ignoran, que el silencio me aniquila, que el silencio me aniquila. Como una cosa perdida, como una cosa perdida, donde no sepan de mí, donde no sepan de mí, que averigüen de mi vida, que averigüen de mi vida. Las dichas, desdichas fueron.
To be honest, us three girls thought that the Bahamas would be a lot better place to pass our March break. But Mom and Dad had already had the ideas in their head to bring us to the Galapagos Islands for a very long time. Alex complained that she had already been there. Even though her argument was partially true, it did not go very well because she wasn't really born yet. To get us excited about the trip, Dad decided to show us the tape that he made in 1992 of the Galapagos Islands. Here, he is overlooking Quito, the capital of Ecuador. Watching his younger self, Dad figured he should let his hair grow longer like it used to be. Alex pointed out to him that he could let it grow to his knees, but it still wouldn't keep his forehead from getting bigger every day. One thing we could all agree on was that we had to return to the Galapagos so that we could shoot a movie without Mom wearing a pink sombrero. Sun protection is important on the equator, but let's get real. We drove to Boston, where we saw John and Lisa's new house, flew to Miami, then to Quito, where we spent a day driving through the highlands and doing a little souvenir shopping on the way to Palactic volcanic hot springs. Our guide, Santiago, informed us that Ecuador has had 7 presidents in the last 7 years, including 3 in one day.
I like the condors, to be honest.
The Galapagos are about 1,000 kilometers out to sea, right on the equator.
Hola! Hey.
On the first day of our Gap Adventures tour, we flew to San Cristobal Island, visited a sea lion colony, swam in the Pacific, and were back on board in time for our guide, Jorge, to introduce us to the crew of our boat, the Cruz del Sur.
For most of you, it will be a big dream coming to Galapagos Island. It's not easy to reach Ecuador South America, Galapagos. Also, congratulations for this big effort to join our young families together too, sharing this beautiful paradise. To introduce the most important person who is in charge to steer the boat, also marking the route, the safety way, escaping from the big waves, also the tsunamis, so the tornadoes here on the island. I would like to introduce our captain of the ship, Victor Arriaga.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Víctor, soy el capitán, bienvenidos a bordo.
Since I'd already been to the Galapagos, this second visit was really for picking up the loose ends, checking out what I'd overlooked the last time. I think what I remembered most from my last visit was the snorkeling, or at least the feeling of weightlessness in water. This time, though, I thought I'd focus more on the islands themselves.
The Galapagos Islands have never been connected to South America. They emerged from the Pacific as a result of volcanic activity over the past few million years. Our 114-meter climb here to the top of the splatter cone on Bartolome Island gave us a good impression of the volcanic origins of this entire area. We could see lava tubes, reddish splatter cones, and even underwater submerged craters in the sea. It's easy to see on this island how difficult it must be for vegetation and wildlife to take hold. That's Pinnacle Rock, jutting up on the left.
Here we are at the top of Bartolome, baking in the 9 o'clock early morning sun.
The largest island on the archipelago, at 130 kilometers long, is Isabella. There are numerous islets and rocks that sit just a few meters above sea level. The youngest islands are about 1 million years old, and the oldest not more than 5 million years. Fernandina and Isabella Islands are considered amongst the most active volcano areas on Earth, and a volcano erupted on Isabella in 1998.
That define each territory. Also, although we are not the highest point of the mighty seesaw, you could see many, or you can hear many males just yet barking, patrolling each area.
Sea lions are found on all the islands, along varying shorelines. Some of the islands have wonderful sandy beaches, which we could invariably share with the sea lions. The sea lions would barely bat an eye as we mimicked their lifestyle by doing a little snorkeling.
It's the first time snorkeling this trip at somewhere island, I don't know.
Gardner Bay, Espanola Island.
Cliffs provide excellent launching points for seabirds like blue and Nazca boobies leaving on fishing expeditions.
Also, tropic bear or just sheer water are found along the cliff. Some of the Darwin finches, or maybe mockingbird juvenile, or maybe also could be found a dove, Galapagos dove.
Lots of boobies everywhere.
It's a beautiful place. We have one of the biggest flamingos group in Galapagos Islands. We will find, last week I count 60 flamingos. We'll see here special flamingos, also a special lagoon bird, like a white-cheeked pinter dog, still, this like still, that neck still.
The process of these islands developing into complex vegetation communities with many unique species is called succession. It can take millions of years, depending on climate, geology, and rainfall. The first plants to take hold are lava cactus and mangroves. Eventually, they change soil conditions enough for other plants to take hold, and in turn, the flora supports an increasing variety of wildlife.
It's a big school of the eagle race. Oh, there are many.
We're at the beach and we saw some sea turtles and some rays, and these are tracks of sea turtles going up last night to plant their eggs.
Good morning. Buenas noches.
At Post Office Bay for years, sailors and now tourists have dropped off mail in the wooden barrel. Jorge is handing us other people's letters. We take the ones from Canada and mail them when we get home. Of course, other people are meant to render us the same service. That was our tour of Floriana Island, and now we're waiting for a panga, which is like a dinghy, to bring us back to our boat, the Gap Adventure 2.
Crowded here on this back beach.
Hey, which island are we headed to next?
Santa Cruz, the most lovely island because I live here.
Yep.
And then we climb afternoon, after the lunch, to the highland to see the giant land turtle in captivity in wild, in natural habitat. Maybe if your grandfather came here 60, 70, or maybe, why not 100 years ago, maybe met at the same tortoises. I am not sure, but maybe if your children or grandchildren of you are coming here in the future, could see the same. You will see the same, just tortoises. The big question, like you did me, is how long they live. We don't know. Just only we have a tiny record. You know, Darwin came in 1835. How many years ago that mean? If he came in 1835? 172 years ago. You know, when Darwin came, he took 4 giant land tortoise babies, about 5 or 6 years old. He put on board and then sailed to England. After he arrived, after a few months, the 2 of them died. Too cold condition on England. And then he decided to send the rest of the 2 to Australia. But you know, one of the tortoises was picked up by Charles Darwin, survived till 2006 in Australia.
At the Charles Darwin Research Station, we saw dome and saddleback tortoises from all different islands. Here, they breed tortoises for reintroduction to the islands. It is here that the sad story of Lonesome George was brought to my attention, the tale that I'd forgotten since my last visit. Lonesome George is the last of the Pinta Island subspecies. A mate has never been found for him, and attempts to breed him with other species have failed. We don't know if he's 90 years old or 150 years old. Maybe he's at his prime. All hope is not yet lost.
Ladies and gentlemen, the kids have been looking forward to this. Lenore and I have been looking forward to revisiting with him the last of the Pinta Island tortoises. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend, the man, the tortoise, Lonesome George. Here he comes.
Looking pretty lonely, I'd say.
Lenore, how are you holding up emotionally after seeing Lonesome George again after 15 years?
It's like coming home. I am just so happy that he's still alive and that we got a chance to rebond, reconnect.
I know this is just plain wrong, but bring me some turtle soup and make it snappy. Jorge tried to convince the kids that the sharks were half vegetarian.
Yeah, they only eat fish. That's what a half vegetarian means, obviously.
I think Devin bought it.
Heather doesn't know that, though.
There is Heather, formerly afraid of sharks.
Yeah, she's swimming.
Yeah, that's a symbol when we see a shark, and we did that symbol many times.
Many times.
But she's conquered her fear here.
I wouldn't quite say conquered, but we've accomplished a great feat.
Civilization is limited in the islands, thank goodness. Most of the 25,000 people who call the Galapagos home live here in Puerto Ayora. It is actually a pretty little town, with the hustle and bustle in the harbor mostly involving food and supplies coming in from Guayaquil on the mainland and heading out to provision people like ourselves on boats. There's been a lot of talk about overpopulation and exploitation in these islands, but it doesn't really seem that paradise has been lost just yet. Mom and Dad say they're heading down here to live for 6 months someday. They'll have a tougher time dragging me along for a third visit, but it doesn't seem like such a bad idea.
It's Sunday, we're here on South Plaza Island. It's our last day, and we're seeing sea lions, cactuses, land iguana, frigate birds, and it's really nice.
Most of the rain falls between January and December, when the warm El Niño ocean currents cause higher air temperatures and cloud formation over the islands. More rain falls on the high islands than the low ones. The giant tortoises we just saw were in the highlands on Santa Cruz, while here on Chinese Hat, it's a challenge for any platform to take hold.
So this morning we were up at 6:30 for breakfast once again. And then we went to North Seymour Island and we went to see the frigate birds and how they reproduce and how they have that huge red balloon. And then afterwards we also saw blue-footed boobies and sea lions. Yeah. And land iguana. We saw a huge land iguana as well. And then we went snorkeling. And we went snorkeling twice. And just before we went snorkeling, we saw this huge shark that was probably like 8 feet long, and it was really scary. And then afterwards, so we went snorkeling. We snorkeled with penguins and sea lions and marine iguanas. I was just about to say that. And then afterwards, now we've been walking on Chinese Hut Islet, and we're about ready to head back to the boat and have dinner.
Live, the weakest animals die. It's called natural selection, which was the theory of evolution that Charles Darwin came up with right here in the Galapagos.
Sarah, scene 831. Since Charles Darwin's visit in 1835, the Galapagos have been recognized as a living laboratory for the study of biological evolution. It is hard to believe that he was only 25 years old when he came to the Galapagos aboard a ship called the Beagle and formed the basis of his theory of evolution through the process of natural selection. I already know I'm not headed for a path in the sciences. Alex, however, has got some time to catch up. She's got 11 years until she is Darwin's age, and as we've pointed out, this is already her second trip to the islands. So let's look at some of the lessons Darwin laid out for Alex.
If we were to watch this nesting blue-footed booby long enough, we would witness 2 chicks being born, and then we'd see what amounts to the murder of the second born when the older chick pushes it out of the nest, in this case probably right over the cliff, all under the approving eye of the mother standing calmly by. Cruel? Not in the long run. To understand why, Alex needs to put herself in Darwin's shoes and take a look at the behavior of this marine iguana. When it enters the water, it is doing something no other iguana in the world does. The Galapagos marine iguana is capable of diving to depths of 10 meters for up to 60 minutes to feed on mosses and seaweed growing under the water's surface. This species has also evolved from the land iguana
to take advantage of a food source sometimes more readily available on the barren volcanic islands. It has learned to cope with the lack of air underwater by slowing down its heart rate. It ejects plumes of salt through its nostrils to prevent dehydration from the salty plant life it consumes. Species that are found only in specific locale, such as the Galapagos, are said to be endemic. The marine iguana is endemic to the Galapagos. As we said, the Galapagos Islands rose up from the ocean. With respect to the book of Genesis, clearly the wildlife did not appear spontaneously on the lava flows. So where did the critters come from? Jorge?
Some of the boobies we saw today, they flew to Galapagos Island. The sea lions also swam, actually from the Baja California to Galapagos Island. Some of the plants we saw maybe came dispersed by the wind. Some are like mangroves, I show you, raft, float on the boat. I'm sorry, on the sea too. You may see this process began a long time ago in the Galapagos Islands.
It is not surprising that the predominant form of animals on the islands are reptiles, lava lizards, land and marine iguanas, and the giant tortoises. They can survive long periods without fresh water and food, and could therefore have been transported fairly easily on rafts of soil and vegetation blown out to sea. No predatory mammal could survive this trip, and this is likely the reason why the Galapagos tortoises are such giants compared to their South American ancestors. The land iguana came first, with its relatively pointy snout suited for feeding on cactus pads, buds, and flowers. In some places, the marine iguana evolved as a separate species through the process of natural selection. In conditions of drought, the weakest died, while those which adapted to the sea and new food sources lived to reproduce and perpetuate the new adaptations. Notice the snub nose, which is preferable for foraging underwater.
While the land eating this way, its snout is pointier than the...
Death is the mechanism of natural selection. Whether it is an iguana succumbing to starvation, a baby sea lion abandoned by its mother, or the unfortunate second-born blue booby chick, Darwin has left a message for Alex, that in the end, survival is for the fittest.
Mother, seen take 42.
A day in the Galapagos is not like a day in any other tropical resort or on board a cruise ship. It involves exploration and learning. While there's plenty of time for R&R, the activity schedule can be rather busy at times, and I think Alex was rather surprised at the amount of such activity given the free ride she enjoyed the first time round. Typically, the day begins early to beat the heat, 6:30 a.m. or so. After motoring overnight, we wake, never knowing what kind of animal, winged or otherwise, would be there to greet us in the morning.
And it looks like we have a problem with the dinghy. ¿Es un problema?
No problem.
Says it's no problem. There's a sea lion asleep in the dinghy. He's already pooped in it. Breakfast is served.
Most meals are served buffet style. Grab a plate, choose from a good balance of dishes, and pick a spot that gets you to know the other 10 passengers on board.
Victor!
Ok, para hoy en la mañana tenemos la visita en Seymour Norte.
Okay.
Y vamos a ver leones marinos, iguanas y terrestres también.
Captain Victor is reading here off the board, which Guide Jorge prepared for us every day in our pre-dinner briefings. This is where we'd learn where we were headed, what we would see, and how we'd be going about seeing it.
be it walking, snorkeling, or motoring amongst the mangroves in a dinghy. This is also where we'd get our biology, geology, ecology lessons. We typically wash them down with a glass of wine. This is, after all, a vacation.
Tenemos tiburones, penguins, iguana marina y muchos peces.
Gracias, Victor. That's our captain.
Okay.
North Seymour Island this morning, and sombrero chino or China hat this afternoon. A big, big schedule.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you how, make you a tour of the boat. So over here is the lounging area where Jorge comes and do his briefing, and we all listen there and play games like them. Okay, and then over here is the dining room where we eat dinner, lunch, and breakfast. And that is the bar.
Who's in the bar?
Pablo.
Alright, Pablo.
Okay. Over here, tea, coffee. And yeah. And then downstairs, over here is my cabin. Me and Alex's cabin share a room. I at the bottom, she has the top, kind of messy, yeah. There's a bathroom for each room with bathrooms and showers. Bathroom, shower. All the other rooms, almost the same. It's nice and the beds are comfy. And yeah.
Thank you.
What's happening this morning?
We're going to Gardener's Bay, and we're going for a walk. We're going to see finches, sea lions, hummingbirds.
The other one I remember Jack was in the Shine. He does a great job.
We're going to iguanas. And then we're going to go snorkeling and then come back to the boat.
Wet landing this morning, day 2. A wet landing entails hopping out of the dinghy in shallow water as opposed to stepping onto a jetty. After breakfast, we'd go ashore for our first of 2 walks of the day. These were not strenuous affairs, lasting about an hour and a half and barely covering a kilometer. Jorge would have well-rehearsed lessons for flora and fauna and geological formations best exhibited on individual islands. Of course, nature is always in flux, so, as Darwin would say, the schedule evolved.
That is a good question, you know.
As we've seen, Galapagos sea lions are no stranger to these parts. What we didn't realize is that we'd see so many of them swimming kilometers offshore as we voyaged between the islands. This explains their close relation to the widespread California sea lion from which they are descended.
About 30,000 sea lions are living around the Galapagos Islands. In every island could be found a Galapagos sea lion. It's one of the best species have colonized, occupied the sandy beach or smooth rocky beach in the archipelagos too.
After the morning walk, it's back to the boat, usually for a pre-lunch snorkeling expedition.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, amigo. ¿Cómo está? ¿Qué tal el viaje?
Muy bien, muy bien. What do we have here today? We have some. There's
some potatoes.
salad.
Hay KFC. Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Chicken tonight.
Yeah. Hamburger.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Dinner isn't much more formal than the rest of the day. Unless you are looking for too much luxury and get stuck on the wrong boat in the Galapagos, there's no need to pack a tuxedo for dinner at the captain's table. Indeed, our trip, Gap Adventures supplied us with sports-sized duffel bags at the pre-departure meeting in which all our luggage had to fit. We did have 2 birthdays in the group during our stay, and Jorge was up to the task for anyone hoping for a cruise ship-style variety show.
Felicidades, felicidades, felicidades. felicidades en este día, felicidades, felicidades, y que la dicha toda la vida.
We're exhausted after a long day that we snorkeled twice, visited 2 islands, and had a lot of food. And when we snorkeled, we saw sharks, penguins, and a bunch of stuff. And the schedule for tomorrow is pretty full. We have breakfast at 7. We're going to climb the volcano, and then we're going to go to the beach and snorkel some more. And then we're going to have lunch, and then we're going to do a dinghy ride for 2 hours. We're going to come back, have dinner, and go to bed. And it's 8 o'clock, and I want to go to bed.
Good night, Devin.
It's a privilege to be able to watch these animals as they pose for us without fear. The Galapagos are a front row seat for rituals like the blue-footed booby doing its mating dance.
This is the moment female has accepted him. They both interchange present before mating, you know. Just they dance around the nesting spot. Actually, female in most of the case is in charge to do the sex selection, selecting the males, but who decide the nesting spot is females. Actually, males is in its nesting spot offering her, not only the nesting spot, also some present. If female take a stone or twig offered by him, deposit in its nesting area, having selected by her, they then dance around them. The accumulation of stones or twigs around the nest is supposed to remember that long time ago, or thousands of millions years ago, they used to build nests.
We could almost feel the pain of defeat experienced by this male sea lion after losing sexual domination of his harem to a stronger, or at least better rested competitor.
This male is one of the males have lost a territory. After 2 or 3 or 4 weeks fighting, no sleeping, no resting, no eating, finally one male took his place.
These spectacles, on display for all to see, make the Galapagos a unique destination on the planet. Remember Lonesome George? Well, since we've come home, we've learned that a giant Pinta Island tortoise has been found on Isabella. Unfortunately for George, it was a male. However, this does mean that a female, perhaps even a purebred specimen, is roaming somewhere on the island. Maybe we can convince Alex to come back and hunt her down after all. In the meantime, we're going to let Jorge have the last word.
Ladies and gentlemen, just we have arrived our end. Just for us, it's really sad to say to you goodbye. Personally, myself, I felt like a home with the girls, boys. Once again, a captain, the name of the captain, just Victor Arriaga. The first mate to the Federico, just Vladimir, the second mate on board. Also Pablo, our bartender, just our chef assistant, Angelo. Also in the name of the Cristobal Colon, the mechanic engineer. Also Jade, our chef, Fernando, myself, Jorge, thank you too. I hope just not only this word or this experience stay inside you. When you come back to your country, please share with your friend. Talk about the Galapagos, talk about this group of Ecuadorians, saying that every day there is a group of persons trying to put our country as high as possible too. I propose a toast to celebrate a special moment. Like an Ecuadorian way. Arriba, abajo, al centro, adentro. Cheers, prost, a vostra samti, salud, samti, salute, salud, bajame la java, chililín, lijaib, kampai. Different language.
Bones sinking like stones, all that we fall for. Homes, places we've grown, all of us are done for.
Yeah, I got 4 of them in my new one.
We live in a beautiful world. We live in a beautiful world. Sinking like stones, all that we've fallen for. Homes, places we've grown, all of us are done for. We live in a beautiful world.
I liked walking down into the lava tubes, and secondly, I liked looking at the little the turtles and how they were like capturing them and like breeding them in the areas in the reserve.
I like snorkeling with the sharks, and I liked watching the birds the other day.
The
The
boobies?
blue-footed boobies.
All right.
Sarah, scene 831.
Oh my god.
I'm not doing anything!
At the Charles Darwin Research Station, we saw different tortoises from all islands. I need it.
Mother, scene, take 42.
Sorry, didn't they go to 43 now?
Oh my god. Hung up on a technicality.